The big piece of the puzzle that everybody has been talking about, which is one of the reasons why your investigation was struck in the first place, no collusion that you found.
No evidence.
No evidence of collusion between
right.
the Trump campaign and the Russians.
Or the Clinton campaign.
How confident are you of that?
Well, we've found none.
That was Congressman Mike Conaway announcing the House Intelligence Committee's Russia investigation has ended. There are others, as you know, on the Hill, but his committee says this in part, quote, "We have found no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians," as he basically just said there. The committee has conducted more than 70 interviews during its probe, including just last week, former manager of President Trump's 2016 campaign, Corey Lewandowski. Corey joins us now. He also serves as chief strategist of America First Action, a Trump super PAC. Corey, good to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So this is obviously something that you've been saying all along, that you believed that there was no collusion. I just want to put up what Adam Schiff has said now in response. And he says, while the majority members of our committee have indicated for some time that they have been under great pressure to end the investigation, it is nonetheless another tragic milestone for this Congress and represents yet another capitulation of the executive to the executive branch. He would like you to come in for the third round, Mr. Schiff.
You know, it's amazing. I sat voluntarily before the committee for a total of more than 12 hours, answering every question that they had about what I saw during my tenure at the Trump campaign. And I was very clear. I never interacted with Russians. The candidate never interacted with Russians. There was no collusion. There was no cooperation. And there was no coordination. And I could have had my testimony done in 5 minutes because it was very simple. I didn't coordinate with anybody to impact the outcome of the election. That was a foreign entity. So, but, you know, Mr. Schiff wants to use this as a bully pulpit for him. I sat there on Thursday of last week and said, before I get up and leave, I've been here for 4.5 hours. Are there any additional questions before I get up and go home and see my family? And there were no additional questions. So this notion that he wants to grandstand and have people come back and talk some more, he had all the time in the world on Thursday to ask me as many questions as he wanted, and he had no more questions. That's the bottom line, because there was no collusion.
I mean, there's 2 pages of pictures that we could put up that they have talked to. So the suggestion that they haven't been thorough, I think, is going to be kind of tough for them to sell here. And they've been at it for a year, which I think most people would consider a fairly reasonable amount of time. And there's other investigations that are ongoing, as we know. But he says he might subpoena you because you were selective, that you cherry-picked what you would answer and wouldn't answer. Would you comply with that subpoena, Corey?
Well, look, it's not up to Adam Schiff to subpoena me. It's up to the majority, and the majority knows I answered every question that was relevant to their investigation. I sat there for 12 hours, and I answered all of their questions. They've interviewed 73 people before the committee, and what Chairman Conaway has said was he saw no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and for that matter, between the Clinton campaign and the Russians. But what we haven't seen, as you know, is a list of 73 Democrats, including Robbie Mook and all the members of the Clinton campaign, who've had to come in and testify before this committee. Why didn't that occur? Because the only campaign that I know of that took money out of the campaign coffers and paid a former spy was the Clinton campaign, and he took that money and went to Russia to create a false dossier. That's what really took place, and the House Investigation Committee never looked at that issue that I'm aware of.
You know, obviously Sam Nunberg has been out a lot, and he's said a few things about you. I could play probably 30 seconds of it, but here's just like 7 seconds. Here's a snippet. You get the idea. Let's play it.
Corey was so lazy,
right.
He couldn't organize a campaign. He could organize a foreign policy division.
Right.
You guys get along really well, right? You fired him twice, right?
Well, I fired him twice, and I think if anybody knows me, that there's a lot of things you can say about me. Lazy is not one of them. I'm usually up around 4 in the morning to try and keep up with then-candidate Trump, going to bed at 11 or 12 at night. I don't think the same could have been said for Mr. Nunberg. And look, you know, unfortunately for Mr. Nunberg, what he said, and these are his own words, he was going to testify in front of the grand jury on Friday, which he did. Then he was going to check himself into rehab. Clearly, he has some substance abuse issues that he needs to deal with, and I think he should take care of those for his own health.
All right. Last thought. I wonder if you heard the Hillary Clinton quote. Basically, she was speaking at a conference in India, and we're working on getting that sound. Hopefully, we'll have it soon. But she said that women who voted for President Trump did so because they basically were pressured by their husbands, their bosses, and their sons. That's why they voted for him. What's your response to that, having been on the campaign trail for all of those months?
You know, it's so outrageous to say such a thing. The bottom line was Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate. And can you imagine what the mainstream media would be saying right now if Donald Trump or another Republican said the exact same thing, that women aren't intelligent enough to make their own decisions and that the only way they can decide who to vote for is if their husbands, their son, or their male bosses tell them who to do so? It is such a disgusting thing. This is supposed to have been a person who has fought her entire life to destroy the glass ceiling, that was going to have fireworks on election night to destroy the glass ceiling in New York, and now she makes this type of statement with no backlash. I hope women around this country stand up and tell her how wrong she is.
Yeah, so she thinks only Democrat women speak their mind. So anyway, that's her opinion. Thank you, Corey. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you.
You bet.